Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. And what I'm going to talk to you about in this video is definitely examples of the crazy world that we live in. What do you think of reality TV? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you like programs like Love Island, chat shows? It's all the rage these days, isn't it? Celebrity Big Brother, Big Brother. People like to see people in real people seem to be, their stories are more popular sometimes than famous people's story. True life is always stranger than fiction, isn't it? We know that on this channel. That. So, but did you know? Today we're going to talk about the Jeremy Kyle. For those of you who are British, I don't know if Jeremy Kyle was shown in other places around the world, but the Jeremy Kyle show was a British TV show, a chat show where people would comment. It's like a pound shop, Jerry Springer. People would come on, take lie detector tests, DNA tests, lot of arguing and shouting and blah, de, blah, de, blah. And then finally, one contestant, if you can call, I don't know what you'd call them, one person who appeared on the Jeremy Kyle show, took a lie detector test, was found to have lied, and later deleted themselves. So that was the end of that show. Let's chat. So, yeah, for anyone who's new to my channel, my name's Vicky. I make videos about true crime mainly, or anything that might be interesting, anything that's strange, any truth that is stranger than fiction. If it piques my interest, and I think it'll interest my chatters, I will make a video about it. So today, as I say, we're going to talk about this particular TV show, the Jeremy Kyle show, that has now been cancelled. It was cancelled when this happened. This was quite a long time ago, but the reason it's back in the news is the inquest is going on at the moment into the death of Steve Dymond. I'm going to have a look at some photos later of him and some video from the show. The inquest is only just taking place. Maybe it was a delay because of COVID. Maybe it was delayed because of legal matters. I'm not sure why it's been delayed so long, because this actually happened over 4 years ago. So we're going to look at it and think, was Jeremy Kyle or TV in general responsible for Steve Dymond's death? Or did Steve Dymond, when he went on Jeremy Kyle's show, he knew what to expect? I mean, anyone who's watched it, I take it if he, applied to go on there, he'd watched it. He knew what it was like. He knew what Jeremy Kyle was like. Jeremy Kyle's quite an aggressive interviewer. You'll see that in a moment. It's this sort of tough love type interviews that he used to do. And, I've watched him interview quite a few people, and sometimes that sort of style worked with some people, especially quite young people. He would tell them off, and it would, sometimes I would watch the show and I would feel uncomfortable because he was over the top. And then other times I would watch it and think, no, he's right. I expect there's a lot of people felt the same way. It was sort of like a little bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. I sort of quite enjoyed watching how we all always tried to guess whether the lie detector tests would prove that they told lies. We'd all try and guess if they told lies or not, or the DNA test. There'd be DNA tests testing if someone was somebody's son or daughter or brother or sister. So those sort of things, they are intriguing. And it was very popular. It was a daytime TV show. It was a very, very popular show. But when Steve Dymond went on there and then later on ended up deleting himself because I believe the note that he left was, that he felt, that he'd been embarrassed by Jeremy Kyle. But, anyway, as I say, that is Jeremy Kyle. That is what he does or what he did. So the show was axed. Jeremy Kyle's never appeared on mainstream TV again. He's on Talk TV and these sort of pseudo news programs. Which is a pseudo news program, really a YouTube channel, really is what it is. But he's doing something, I suppose. So he's probably couldn't wait for this case to come up, get it over with, say his piece. He says he's been scapegoated. It wasn't his fault. He's had a lot to do with it. So we're going to watch the videos today. We're going to make our mind up. But also, we're going to talk about 2 other cases of chat shows, reality chat shows that ended in death, but murder as opposed to self-deletion. One in America and one right here in Spain, where people appeared on the very similar type chat shows as to Jeremy Kyle, probably not as aggressive, just chat shows where people would go on with secret crushes or ask someone to marry them, etc. And 2 cases that we're going to look at, one from, as I say, America and one from here in Spain. But first of all, I'm going to say hello to everyone, and then we're going to look at the actual Jeremy Kyle case. So, hi Chumba. Hi Kelly. Hi Mia. Mamma Mia. Hope you're all well today. Hi David. Hi Michelle. Oh, I didn't know that, Kelly, that he was refused when he first applied. Yeah, because these chat shows, they're supposed to take, the thing is, they bear a responsibility, don't they? They're supposed to take precautions, same as like Big Brother and Love Island. And that apparently there's been loads of self-deletion attempts from contestants from Love Island. You just never get to hear about it. I personally can't stand those kind of programs that make people out, show these perfect people who, nobody, and they just get humiliated, don't they, by the other contestants. I don't like those programs personally. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Admit Audacity. Okay, so yeah, did they, I presume they did the checks that they normally do. Personally, I'm surprised that nothing had happened before. I've watched that show sometimes, and I don't know if you remember. Let's see, have I got a little video just to give you an example of the show for anyone who hasn't seen it. Is this it? Well, first of all, let me just show you. So this is Jeremy Kyle. This is for anyone who has never seen the Jeremy Kyle show. For those of you that are in other countries, did you used to get it on your TVs? Was it actually distributed like to other English-speaking countries like Australia or America? I don't know if it was. Anyway, this is Jeremy. This is Jeremy Kyle. This is Steve Dymond in the check shirt, the guy who appeared on his show. This is his girlfriend. And basically she'd found out that he'd been unfaithful to her. So he was on the show to take a lie detector test to prove that he hadn't lied to her, that he hadn't been unfaithful. But unfortunately for him, the lie detector test came down that he had been deceptive, came back that he had been deceptive. And so, you know, a lot of people think they can beat the lie detectors. Now, I don't know if Steve was telling the truth or not. Only Steve knows that, really, or knew that. Only he knew the truth. But sometimes people go on these shows because they think they can beat the lie detectors. Now, lie detectors, they're not 100% truthful, accurate, are they? That's why they're not allowed in court. There's a couple of percent that they're not you know, that they're not reliable. That's why the courts don't allow them. But a lot of people, you know, sometimes people pass lie detector tests and later it turns out that it was them that did whatever it was. And then sometimes people fail lie detector tests and then it turns out that they didn't actually do anything wrong, because there's a lot of human error in them because of nerves. But normally the person, the lie detector expert who is, you know, performing the lie detector test, they normally take all that into account. And normally if there's any reason why the results can't be 100% reliable, they normally call it inconclusive. So my own personal feeling is if someone fails a lie detector test, especially if they fail every single question, which Steve did, to me, they probably are lying. But we don't know, do we? We don't know. Maybe he wasn't lying. I mean, it doesn't matter in a way now. But he was, you know, he got very, very upset. We're going to look at that video. He got extremely upset when it was suggested, you know, that he might be lying. And yeah, resulted in finally, apparently he couldn't live with it. And he did take his own life. Now, I feel like I've got just a general example of Jeremy Kyle somewhere, but I think I've lost it. I'm just putting some windows down as usual because I was going to do a double video today. I was going to talk about the high school shootings in Georgia, but I'm going to talk about that later. So I will be on 3 times today. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So I want to show you an example of the Jeremy Kyle show.
Because you're a liar, aren't you? No. Easy to stand on television and say she did. One of the most disgusting people I've ever met in my entire life.
Oh, you know, he's quite aggressive, isn't he, in his tone and the way he talks to people.
From what I read about you, would make any person with a brain cell recoil in horror. You failed the test. Why did you fail the test? Because you're a liar, aren't you? No. Easy to stand on television and say she did this and she did that. You're a tea leaf, and you, there you are. Do you want to apologise now for having a go at a woman about apparently being an attention-seeking fantasist because your brother is a thief? Answer that. No, of course.
See how he's right in their faces. So this was a video that was put together by the Sun when the Jeremy Kyle show was axed. This is Graham, the guy that's talking to this girl, because what would happen was Jeremy would, you know, go and shout at him and be in the face. Honestly, how he never got punched, I'll never know, because he'd be right up in their face. And sometimes when they were on the stage, he'd be sat at the foot of that stage, and how nobody ever kicked him in the face, I'll never know. I mean, he had security all around him, but when he used to sit on the stage in front of the people, I used to think, God, they could easily kick him in the face before the security got there. Anyway, this is Graham, and he would, so Jeremy would shout at the people, upset them, get them crying and whatever, and then Graham would move in like to smooth over the waters. He was the psychologist, you know, and I do wonder, what is he doing now?
Of course it's not, because you, right?
I was still, just because we split up like a week ago, you know, I was still with him for 2 years. He was still my fiance. I still loved him.
But no, you sit there with your grandmother blaming everybody else for your inability.
So all that shouting, I mean, he would literally be spitting in their faces. Oh, thank you, Admit Audacity. Oh, got new member. Thank you. I'm going to we'll welcome you properly on the next members live. But thank you for joining. So yeah, I mean, really virtually spitting in their faces. So yeah, I've forgotten he'd do things like lie detector tests. So like maybe some money had gone missing from someone's house and there'd be 5 people that it could possibly be. So he'd have them all on there doing a lie detector test. So it was like Cluedo, you know, you had to guess who it was. I mean, it had its, you know, as human beings, we are interested in other human beings' behavior. And maybe that's wrong of us. You know, maybe it is wrong. It's like being interested in true crime. It's like, you know, when you drive past the wreckage of an accident and you feel like you shouldn't look, but you just can't help it. And you look and then you wish you hadn't looked. And you see, it must be something in our makeup. It must be something in our humanness that we are interested in these things. Because Jeremy Kyle, it was a massive success, you know, very popular show. I expect it was a big it was ITV, wasn't it? It was probably a big loss to ITV when they had to take it off, and there'll never be anything like it again.
Because of your promiscuousness to defend and look after the things that you create. Well, I'm going to make sure that you two, who disgust everybody in this room, have nothing whatsoever to do with him, because you are all...
Yeah, so Carolyn McCall, ITV's CEO, announced today, given the gravity of recent events, we've decided to end production of the Jeremy Kyle show. So ITV have been through a hard time. In fact, all the TV thing, you know, with the BBC, it's been the Hugh Edwards debacle, scandal. With ITV, it's Philip Schofield, the Jeremy Kyle show. You know, TV's on its ass, really, because all of its most popular shows. And the thing is, you know, it's people that made Jeremy Kyle show popular. People watched it, they tuned into it, you know, whether we like it or we don't like it, or we think it's right or wrong, you know. And I've got to say, because I think it must have been on in my lunchtime, because I was working, but you know, I work from home, so I'd do classes. Then I probably wasn't doing internet classes. It would have been classes in the classroom before COVID more, whereas now I do more internet classes. And yeah, I would come up for lunch, and it seemed to be on around that lunchtime. Or maybe it was just when I had some. So I didn't watch it every day, but if it was on and I was, you know, able to watch it, I would watch it. I've got to hold my hands up and admit, you know, that I did watch Jeremy Kyle and I liked watching it. If it was something a bit too much, I'd just turn it off. But there were other times, you know, I like the lie detector ones a lot. So the Jeremy Kyle show has had a loyal audience and has been made by a dedicated production team for 14 years. So we're talking about series, a long-running popular series. Now is the right time for the show to end. I think, you know, TV has been struggling to fill this void of programs that have had to be cancelled. The thing is, with any reality shows, there's always a risk. You know, because you're dealing with normal people, and they're, you know, normal people have normal problems. There's always going to be people with mental health issues. There's always going to be problems. So, you know, you can't sort of brush them up and brush them under the carpet, because these are real people. I mean, he has got that very aggressive look about him, hasn't he? You know, I mean, he certainly didn't beat around the bush. Yeah. That's it, he'd call people idiots. What he used to do, I noticed, was he would start off really loud and shouting aggressive, and then he would go all calm and, you know, towards it, and then, come on, Graham, come in and help. And then he'd try and, you see, that seemed to be his method, you know, shout, be aggressive, shout, embarrass them. And then at the end, he would start being a little bit more conciliatory, etc. That was his style. But so he apparently said that he thought he'd been scapegoated in all this, which I sort of agree in a way, because my only problem with Steve, as much as I feel for him, and I'm sure he must have been going through a terrible time, you know, to end up doing that to himself. I really feel for him and his family. He went on a show that he did know what was involved in that show. And there's always a chance that you might fail a lie detector test, even if you're telling the truth. So, you know, it was a voluntary thing. He did decide to go on it. But anyway, I'll let you decide what you think. So let's have a look now at the actual show. Oh God. So the inquest opened, I think it was yesterday or this week anyway. And now we're going to have a look at the actual episodes that are released, the video that has never been released before of the actual bits from the show.
Just so you're aware, you failed every single question.
Let me just go back to the beginning.
Just so you're aware, you failed every single question.
So that's his girlfriend. You could tell she was like dreading, sort of looking forward to and dreading the answer. She wanted it to say, obviously, that he passed the lie detector test. You know, she wanted to believe him. I'm sure she wanted to believe him. But unfortunately, he failed every question.
Just so you're aware, you failed every single question.
Oh my God, I was never unfaithful.
Better go and talk to her.
God. Oh no. Oh, he was gonna But I wasn't. I've never been unfaithful.
I find it quite interesting. I'm really sorry. You're better than that, by the way. I find it quite interesting that the audience thought you were telling the truth.
So apparently the audience thought he was telling the truth. And now he's getting very upset, the guy. But, you know, that I'm not sure that he was telling the truth. Of course, it doesn't matter now. The poor guy's no longer with us. But did he think he could beat the lie detector test? Or was he genuinely telling the truth?
I wouldn't trust you with a chocolate button, mate. Honestly, you are. I don't think you even know what the truth is.
Now, of course, then Jeremy does start having a go at him a bit. You know, that's what Jeremy does. This is my other sort of problem with this is he must have seen the Jeremy Kyle show before. I mean, I would never go on the Jeremy Kyle show, that's for sure. Let's have a look at this.
It is an episode.
Next guest today, Jane is here to find out whether her partner Steve has indeed cheated on her.
It is an episode never broadcast, one that saw the Jeremy Kyle show taken off air. Steve Dymond in 2019 wanted to prove he hadn't cheated on his partner, explaining during the recording how producers had turned down his initial request to appear.
When the first time we applied for the show, they wouldn't let us on because they said I was on depression tablets. I went to the doctor.
Ah, there you go, Kelly. Yeah, so the first time he applied to go, they wouldn't let him go on because he was on depression tablets. So he went to the doctor and got taken off them. That does put a different complexion. He shouldn't have been allowed on there, should he?
They said I haven't took any. Took the full box back. Said I don't want them, I haven't touched them.
Returning after he'd stopped his medication and got a GP note, which allowed him to do the lie detector test. But things didn't go to plan.
Just so you're aware, you failed every single question.
Oh my God, I was never unfaithful.
Gotta go and talk to her.
But I wasn't. I've never been unfaithful.
7 days after the recording, Steve Dymond died of an overdose and heart problems at his home in Portsmouth. After the show, he'd been distraught. More familiar with asking questions, tables turned on Jeremy Kyle, summoned to answer accusations he'd overstepped the mark.
I find it quite interesting that the audience thought you were telling the truth. I wouldn't trust you with a chocolate button, mate. Honestly, you are. I don't think you even know what the truth is.
Of his on-screen persona explaining,
Now, Jeremy Kyle, they don't call him Jeremy Vile for nothing. He is abrasive. That is how he is. He's always been like that. He's not a nice person. He's now like, you know, this right-wing twonk on Talk TV. But look at his face there. It looks quite evil there. But, you know, I'm not disputing that. He's not a nice person. But everybody knew what he was like. This is my only thing with this whole thing is nobody could go on the Jeremy Kyle show and say, well, I didn't think he was going to be like that. You know exactly how Jeremy Kyle's going to be, especially if you fail a lie detector test. You know, he didn't hide the way he was, did he? But so I don't know what's going to come of this, whether there's going to be legal action, you know, couldn't say it was Jeremy Kyle's fault because Jeremy Kyle was just being Jeremy Kyle. I don't know where this inquest is going to go to.
the show developed, it was a character, a part. Yes, it was direct, but it was empathetic. It was honest. That's what I always believed the show was about, conflict resolution.
You fail the whole test. Yeah.
The court was shown this video of Mr. Dymond before his polygraph.
Yeah, but you understand, you fail one question, you fail a lot. Good.
Kyle stressing Mr. Dymond had been repeatedly explained the process.
We stand by that test. There are enough lies. Anybody got a shovel? Mate, I'm not interested. I'm only interested in doing what I'm asked to do and looking after this woman. Your conscience will serve you in time.
According to the presenter, this was how he de-escalated matters, steering the couple, he said, towards talking to experts off camera. When asked whether he'd humiliated him, Kyle said, no, I've read that I called him a traitor. No, I didn't. It was the show as I understood the show. We'd done what we'd always done for 15 years and provided an aftercare package. And then, yes, I moved on to the next guest. From the start, the coroner in this case has stressed that the purpose of this inquest is not to apportion liability. And in court, Kyle insisted the production, the aftercare, the lie detector tests were not his responsibility, insisting he was just the presenter. Once one of the most recognisable faces of daytime TV, but previous employers seemingly unwilling now to be associated with his hectoring style. Jeremy Kyle insisting in court that his guests knew what they were getting into. Mr. Kyle, are you sorry about what happened? Katie Spencer, Sky News in Winchester.
Next guest today, Jane is here to find out whether a partner...
Yeah, it's a moot point, isn't it? I think. I mean, I see what you're saying. That was a style that was popular with people. People watched that show, enjoyed the show. It was a successful show. So he was just doing what he, as he said, what he'd always done in the show. I don't think he treated Steve any differently, any more harshly than he'd ever treated. In fact, if anything, he said he treated him a lot more lightly than I've seen him treat people. But to me, it's just a mystery that it ever took so long that anything like this happened. I can't believe nothing else like this happened over 15 years, or that he wasn't actually had his lights punched out on the stage or something. You know, it was that style. I think that style of television has gone forever, hasn't it? It looked good because it's not necessarily a good style of television. You know, I don't think, that would be considered bullying now, wouldn't it? And, and rightly so, I suppose. But that was, he was like a copy of Jerry Springer. If any of you have seen Jerry Springer over in the UK, Jerry Springer is no longer with us, of course. Now he died not long ago. But he had God, if you think that was bad, his programme, my God, I mean, you know, a friend of mine once said it's just a way of making fun of the lower classes, and it is really. They just get on people who are on drugs, or you know, and it'd be the most lurid story that you could imagine. You know, the stories just got more and more lurid. You know, it was oh God, they'd be talking, it'd be incest, it'd be I don't know how many affairs somebody could possibly be having. It'd be, you know, oh. And again, the Jerry Springer show, many years ago, I did watch it. I mean, probably when I was in the UK. And then I thought that just went completely over the top. So, you know, just like a circus, really, just really deliberately making fun of the guests. And I'm surprised they never had any that happen. As far as I know, the Jerry Springer show, they never had an incident like that. And the Jerry Springer show ran for years and years and years. But as far as I know, no incidents like this. Very surprising, really. It's just an accident waiting to happen, isn't it, these type of shows, really? Now, somebody asked if he was happily married. Let's have a look. Now, he's a cancer survivor, Jeremy Kyle. He's only got one testicle, because he had testicle cancer. I'm pretty certain. Now, let me just check this actually, in case I'm talking absolute shite. But I think so. I'm pretty sure. Let's have a look on good old Wikipedia. That always tells you. So he was born in 1965. So he's 58, 59. And he was born in Reading. Well, do you know what? I didn't know that. And do you know what? Something else I didn't know. He's of Scottish descent. That's where he gets all the aggression from. Sorry, I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. Chumba, David, Michelle, whoever's Scottish out there. It's a joke. I'm Scottish descent as well. That's where I get my feistiness from. So, yeah, Kyle was born in Reading, Berkshire, and is of Scottish descent. His father was an accountant and a personal secretary to the Queen Mother for 40 years. And he claims that his older brother, Nick, has experienced drug addiction. Anyway, he went to a boys' private school, the Reading Blue Coat School in Sonning, Berkshire. Beautiful place, Sonning Common, very beautiful. His first job was at Marks and Spencer. He studied history and sociology at the University of Surrey. Now, let's have a look at his personal life. Well, he's been married 3 times. So he got married in 1989 to Kirsty Rowley, and he divorced in 1991. He then married Carla Germain in 2003 and was divorced in 2016. And he then married Vicky Burton in 2021. And to date, they're still married. He's got 6 children. So apparently his first marriage was short-lived because he was addicted to gambling and he accumulated a lot of debt. His second wife, they divorced amicably. And in 2012, let me just have a look. I've forgotten what picture I've left up. Oh, I've got his picture up. So, yeah, in 2012, he was diagnosed with testicular cancer. He received chemotherapy and underwent surgery to remove the affected testicle. And then in February, listen to this. In February 2018, he announced his engagement to Vicky Burton, who was his children's former nanny. And they've got 2 children together. Anyway, apparently in 2021, he was diagnosed with anxiety disorder after the Jeremy Kyle show was axed. Yeah, so he's had a bit of a checkered history. So he's got his everyone's got mental health issues these days. That's what, as soon as anything happens, people say, oh, well, I've got mental health issues. You know, sometimes I feel like it's a word that's a little bit overused unfortunately, for some people. And people quite often use it as an excuse for things. But anyway, so now one thing I've got to say about him, when he was on the Jeremy Kyle show, I remember particularly after he came back after he had his cancer scare, you know, and was diagnosed with cancer and had to have his testicle removed. He took a lot of stick from the contestants. And as much as, you know, it's not very nice, he used to say all these awful things. He took a lot of stick as well. He could certainly take it. I mean, they would, and I expect a lot of it was cut out, wasn't it? Don't forget, we only get to see the final show after it's been edited. But quite often, the contestants, when they got annoyed with him, they would say, oh, well, you've only got one Paul. You know, things like that. And those were left in I remember watching that and him taking a lot of stick from the people who appeared on the show. So it was a funny old show, really. And I'll never forget when it first was axed. And what was it? It must have been the opening of the inquest or something, or maybe it was a different case coming from his show. And the judge saying that the show was a human form of bear baiting. That's how the judge described it. In fact, I don't know if I can find that. And I thought that was a very apt thing to say. Oh, yeah. So this was in 2007. A judge was sentencing a man who, at a recording of the ITV show, headbutted a lodger after he had an affair with his wife. And that's when this judge referred to it as a human form of bear baiting. And District Judge Alan Berg told a man that the producers of the show deserved to be in the dock with him, as they had provoked this attack. And it was getting repeated warnings about its duty of care back ever since it launched in 2005. And a mental health charity questioned whether the programme can ever be made safe. So there were warnings, weren't they? So this judge went on to describe it as sanctioned abuse. And then another judge said that the makers of the show were taking advantage of the foolish and the gullible, as he jailed a man for 2 years for an attack on the mother of his children. So apparently this man subjected his 23-year-old girlfriend to a prolonged and cruel assault after she'd undertaken a lie detector test on Jeremy Kyle over accusations she'd been unfaithful. So in 2008, the Guardian journalist Carol Cadwallader. Now she's done a lot of exposés on TV producers, etc., and she suffered a lot of abuse for it. But anyway, she managed to get into the studio to watch the filming and later tracked down one of the participants who was described as being publicly humiliated, and she discovered the man had bipolar disorder and paranoid schizophrenia, which his stepmother said they told the program makers. And she said on Twitter, I tried to hold the Jeremy Kyle show to account and I failed. This is Carol Cadwallader. This is sanctioned abuse and bullying that's been in plain sight for years. So, however, Jeremy Kyle claimed he was giving audience members a chance to improve their lives. And he said, I care about them and their problems. Let's have a little read of this. Now, one of my nephews was on the Jeremy Kyle show, not on the stage, watching it, but actually I do know someone who's on the Jeremy Kyle show. Oh, a sort of a friend of a friend, not a friend of mine, but a friend of a friend. So I do know of someone who was on the Jeremy Kyle show. Anyway, Jeremy Kyle said, my agitators seem as deliberately destroying the fabric of society, profiting from the disadvantage for cheap thrills. Nothing could be further from the truth. We're actually giving help to some of those whom society has left behind. But in 2014, the show broke Ofcom rules for failing to inform about the care and safety of a teenage participant. So there have been other issues. There have been. So this wasn't the first one, but it's the first one that led directly to someone dying. But really, when you look at those other things that have led to people attacking, as a result of lie detector tests and that, and have resulted in actual criminal action, surely it should have been taken off long before. Anyway, in 2014, the show broke Ofcom rules for failing to inform about the care and safety of a teenage participant. A viewer complained to the regulator concerned about the distress displayed by the 17-year-old who had failed a lie detector test when questioned about stealing. She was shown shouting, crying and breathing heavily both backstage and in front of the studio audience after she was called a crackhead and a silly anorexic slapper by her older sister. And they also found it broke the watershed for an Easter Sunday morning show titled "Did You Sleep With My Boyfriend and Is He Your Baby's Dad?" So those would be the titles, wouldn't they, of the shows, like lurid titles like that to entice people in. The programme included questions about orgasm noises and a description of one of the guests smelling of fish and raw sex. Oh my God, it makes me feel sick. And in the wake of the death of the show's guest, Steve Dymond, former participants have also come forward. So this will be what will happen now. A lot of other people will come forward. Former participant Harry Henson told Mirror Online of how he was left close to taking his own life after the 2015 appearance on the show. I was coming off cocaine and cannabis at the time, and the stress of the show made me relapse really badly. But again, I would say there, why did you go on the show, Harry? You should not have gone on the show. People do have individual responsibility as well. You can't always blame everybody else for your own actions. If you decide to go on the Jeremy Kyle show, you've got to take some responsibility for your own decisions that you take. And a former runner on the show who asked to remain anonymous told the BBC, "I saw things you would never imagine happening on any other TV programme." So, so there's been warnings then, hasn't there? There's been warnings about everything. Oh, did it go quiet? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You can hear me okay? Okay, I think you can hear me okay. Yeah, it seemed to cut off for a bit. It was just for a second, I think. Okay. So that's what's going on with the Jeremy Kyle show. So that inquest is going on. That's probably, where are we now? Friday. I don't think it will finish today. It will probably go into next week. I'm not sure. But now I want to tell you about these two other stories that you may or may not have heard about, which I think sort of link up. And I think the era of that type of program is over, isn't it? There's a program in America, or was a program in America, the Jenny Jones show, I think it was called. And she would get people on who had secret crushes. Similar to Ricky Lake, that was another one. There's a lot of these shows. They went through their sort of golden era, didn't they? Where there were a lot of them. What's the other one? Monteith. Of course, there's Dr. Phil and loads of different ones in America. And here in the UK, there was Trisha. Lots of different shows of this similar ilk, because they were going through their golden age of when they were really popular, daytime TV, popular with people who either weren't working or housewives, or anybody who, if you were off ill or you had an hour spare and there'd be some chat show on somewhere. There were so many of them. Anyway, this was Jenny Jones, and lol, I admit. This is Jenny Jones. Now, I don't know if any of you know about this story, but this was made the end of the Jenny Jones show. Jenny Jones show. Now, I'm going to show the video. I've got to turn the sound down because I might well get copyrighted for it. So I'm turning the sound down, but the subtitles are on. You'll get the gist of what's going on. So this was one type of show she would do where people would come on with this who had a secret crush. They would apply to go on the show, and the person who they had the crush on was invited to go on the show. And I presume that when they invited them on, they would say to them, look, somebody's written to us, they've got a secret crush on you. I need to tell you that it could be a man, it could be a woman, there could be any race. That I presume they made all that clear to them, because are you prepared to come on the show? But of course you have to go on the show being prepared for the fact that it may be someone of a different ethnic minority, ethnicity, maybe someone of the same sex as you, or whatever. It may not be somebody that you're happy has got a crush on you. So I'm presuming that they had to make that clear to these people. So this is what happened. This is the video. This guy came on to say he had a secret crush on another guy. Oh, just let me make sure. Am I actually sharing? Maybe not. No, I've not shared it. Oh, look at that. I realised I wasn't sharing. Back to the beginning. So this is Scott. The man is Scott. He's the one who's got a secret crush. And this is his best friend, or one of his good friends. And he apparently first saw this guy that he's got a crush on when he was fixing her car. So she decided she was going to help him get to meet this secret crush. So when he first saw him, he was working on the car, and she says, oh, what did you like about me? He said, oh, I could only see his bottom half. Now, he's brave coming on here about this, because he doesn't even know if this guy is gay or not, so there's a lot of guys, who might take umbrage to that. But anyway, I'll tell you the whole story in a moment, but let's just watch the video. Now, you know, to me, I think, God, if I had a secret crush on someone, the last thing I'd want to do is go on a national TV chat show. And God, because what if they came out and then they found out it was you, and then they like really went, oh my God, you know, or oh God, no way. Fancy not minding being humiliated in front of loads of people. I would have rather have asked that friend of mine, that girl there, if that was my friend, and I said, well, do you think you could just go and ask him, does he like Barbara Streisand? You know, does he like, this is like a standing joke, isn't it? Does he like Barbara Streisand? And find out, first of all, if he'd be interested in a man, first of all, never mind me. And then, you know, maybe get them to sort of just break the ice a little bit, and then you're not losing anything. Then if he turns around and goes, oh no, you know, then fine, fair enough, nothing's been, you know, no harm done. But to go on national TV, to me, again, as I say, you've got, when you do these things, in a way, you've got to be aware that you could be embarrassed. So that lady that you just saw very briefly there, that's the victor, his mum. That's his mum. She must be watching this. Patricia Graves, that was his mum, or is his mum. Don't know if she's still with us now, but that's his mum. I mean, you know, that's a bit much, isn't it? I don't know if you can read that, because sorry, I just can't play the sound because I'm a bit paranoid about copyright at the moment. But yeah, I'd like to tie him up to my hammock, get whipped cream and champagne, all stuff like that. But don't forget, this is before he even knows if this guy is interested. So she asked, do you know if he's gay? And he says, oh, well, anything's possible. And she says, well, you're living in the 1990s. I tell you what, even now, you can never be sure how people are going to react, you know, to things, especially on it's different, like, I don't know how it would feel, you know, in his garage, like where he worked or whatever, just privately, the girl saying, oh, look, my friend's interested in you, blah, 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 blah. You probably find, oh, that's complimentary. No, you know, no, anybody who's interested, if somebody's interested in you and finds you attractive, I'm sure that's complimentary to anybody. But on the public stage like that in front of millions of people, because Jenny Jones, she was really popular, that, you know, I can't believe that they didn't see that might be a problem. So here's the guy. So the guy comes out, sits down, I think up to now, I don't know if he knows yet who the crush is. Let's just put the sound on for a minute.
I said about you, John. Take a look at that monitor
right
down
here?
there.
Well, it entails like whipped cream and champagne, stuff like that.
This guy's probably thinking, oh my God, why did I come on this show? But then again, why did he come on the show? Who did he think? Was he maybe he was hopeful that it would be that woman, or maybe he was maybe there's another woman he's interested in, or maybe even another man he's interested, because it's still not clear yet whether he did, if he is gay or bisexual. It's still not clear. But, well, I'll tell you what happened. But, right, I'm going to turn the sound down again because just in case. I mean, he doesn't look too bothered, but it's hard to tell. God knows what's going through his head in that moment. Is he thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, why did I come here? Or is he thinking, oh, this is all right, it's just a bit of fun? I don't know what he's thinking. So she asked him, are you involved with anyone at the moment? He said, no, but I am definitely a heterosexual. So apparently he'd been engaged to someone for 3 or 4 years and he'd broken up several months earlier. Oh, so he was hoping, this guy's saying that he was probably hoping it might be his ex-girlfriend, or there was somebody else at work who he quite liked and he was hoping that it might be her. Oh, he went out and bought all new clothes, new shoes. Oh. I think you can see it on his face as he comes out and sees that Donna and him sitting there waiting for him, and not his ex-girlfriend or the woman from work that he's interested in. You can see the disappointment on his face, I think. Okay, so that's what happened in the actual video. So didn't come to anything. Well, the guy's probably thinking nothing ventured, nothing gained. He's got this Scott, who's the guy who had the crush. He's got Jonathan out there. Now, Scott is 32 or was 32. And Jonathan, the guy who came out that he liked, he was 24. So they're probably thinking, oh, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. He's said what he thinks. The guy's not interested in him, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, apparently, though, It said again, this is what Wikipedia says. It must be true. No, but it's not only on Wikipedia, but it's on other news articles as well. Apparently, they did go out for a drink that night. Now, some sources claim that something happened between them, but that cannot be verified because he's not saying that it did, Jonathan. And of course, Scott is not here to tell the story anymore. But apparently on March the 9th, a couple of, I don't know when was the actual, I'm just trying to see when the actual, so it was March the 6th with the interview on the Jenny Jones show. And then on March the 9th, just a couple of days later, apparently Scott, the guy who had the crush, left a sexually suggestive note on his apartment doorstep. Now, why did he do that? Had something happened between them? Was he still just not giving up, even though Jonathan had said he wasn't interested? Or had something happened that first night to make Scott think that he was interested? Anyway, left this note on his doorstep. And that same day, Jonathan Smits went out, purchased a 12-gauge shotgun, went to his home and fired 2 shots into his chest and murdered him. He himself phoned 911 to report the shooting, and the ambulance came, but it was too late to save Scott. And Jonathan was charged with first-degree murder. And he used, the defense that he used was the gay panic defense, which I'm not actually sure what that is. Let's have a look. So the gay panic defense, this is a new one, me, or homosexual advance defense is a strategy of legal defense which refers to a situation in which a heterosexual individual charged with a violent crime against a homosexual individual claims they lost control and reacted violently because of an unwanted sexual advance. What a load of bollocks. Anyway, so he claimed that he killed Scott over his embarrassment about the revelation of the same-sex crush. And so finally he was found guilty of second-degree murder. Now, what was he given? Let's see. So then, of course, when Schmidt was, when it went to trial, Jonathan Schmidt had been diagnosed with manic depression, Graves' disease, which I'm not sure what that is. It's a thyroid condition. And he was caused to commit homicide by mental illness, according to him, and humiliation using the gay panic defense. He was found guilty of second-degree murder in 1996 and sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison, but his conviction was overturned on appeal. So then he was retried. He was found guilty all over again, and his sentence was reinstated. However, he was released from prison on August the 22nd, 2017, after being granted parole. So he's out. He's free. He's free. So what do we think of that? You know, is he right to be out? As he served, you know, was he justified in what he did? It's obviously not. I mean, to me, how can he be just? I understand that he probably would have been a bit put out, but then he agreed to go on the Jenny Jones show. It all comes down to that to me. I would imagine that when you agree to go on one of those shows, you have to sign a disclaimer. There's all these different things that might happen. Surely he's aware that, you know, he could have been a man who liked him. He had it fixed in his head that it was his ex-girlfriend or the woman at work that he liked. But you have to take in, it could have been anybody, couldn't it? Could have been anybody. So, you know, he has to bear some responsibility himself. He went on the show. Also, of course, if something sexual did happen between them, I don't know if it did or it didn't, but also he has to take responsibility. Nobody forced him to go and buy a gun. He went to buy a gun to commit this murder. He didn't have a gun in his house already. He went out of his way to buy a gun, go round to his house and shoot him. So I don't see how any of those other things fit in. You know, it wasn't a crime in an instant of recklessness. He had to actually go and buy a gun to do it. So personally, I just think he, I feel for him, of course, in some ways, but I feel, the other guy, he just fancied him. He fancied him. I mean, if I was him, I wouldn't have gone on that show to do that either, but he did for whatever reason. And that should have been the end of it. When he came out and said, oh, like most straight men, really, if they didn't have a bit of a sort of I don't know, if it didn't strike a chord in some way, they'd just think it was funny, wouldn't they? Surely they'd just say, oh no, sorry mate, you're barking up the wrong tree, or I'm afraid, that's what I'd do if it was if that happened to me, like a woman or whatever. Just say, oh, I mean, I might get a bit paranoid and start thinking, oh God, am I butch or whatever? Why did they think, I might get a little bit paranoid like that. Maybe that's what was behind it. Maybe he started to question his own sexuality, and maybe it just touched a bit of a nerve. Who knows? Only he knows that. But it does seem a bit extreme, doesn't it, to go and actually kill someone just because they actually have a crush on you and they left you a note or whatever. Like you say, you would just laugh it off and move on. They're not going to do anything to you, are they? I mean, nobody's going to force you to sleep with them. So that is one case. And the other case I'm going to tell you about of chat shows like that ending in death, in murder, is a Spanish case which happened not that long ago. Now, let me just put some windows down so I can concentrate on that one. So this was a woman, the woman who was called onto the program actually is Russian, or was Russian. This happened in November 2008. Oh God, I didn't realize it was that long ago. I thought it was recent, but it's not. Anyway, Svetlana Orlova was a Russian single parent, and she was brought on the show so that her ex-boyfriend could ask her to marry him, but she didn't know. She didn't know that's what it was going to be about. This boyfriend that brought her on the show, there was a restraining order against him. He's a Spanish guy. They'd been going out together for a while. He'd committed a lot of domestic violence against her, and there was a restraining order out against him. And he went to this chat show and said that he had a surprise for her. And because anyway, she was called onto the show. She was asked to go onto the show again. They said that somebody had an emotional surprise for her. Again, if that would have been me, there's no way I would go on that show if you didn't know what it was for, But anyway, unfortunately for her, Svetlana, she went on the show. Now, I don't know if they get paid for going on the show or whatever, but apparently Svetlana had no idea why she was appearing on this popular Spanish TV show, Patricia's Diary, and producers had helped plan this surprise marriage proposal from her ex-boyfriend, Ricardo Navarro. So they hadn't done their due diligence. They hadn't looked into his criminal history and seen that there's actually a restraining order out against him. Anyway, so could you imagine how she felt? Now, I've been looking for some photo. I can't find the video, but I have found a photo. Let's have a look. Could you imagine you've got your ex-partner, you've got a restraining order against him, and as I say, I wouldn't have gone on the TV program, but anyway, she did, unfortunately. Went on the TV program, and then can you imagine when your ex-partner comes out, who you've got a restraining order against, gets down on one knee and proposes to her. Let's have a look.
Le dijeron que se reencontraría con su...
Right, I'm going to turn the sound down because it's in Spanish anyway, so you won't be able to understand it. But this is Svetlana. Look at her face. She's probably thinking, oh my God, why did I come on this show? Why did you, Svetlana? So apparently he punched her in the face in front of her children or her child. She had one child. He's turned up on this show, got down on one knee. Look at her face, looking at him. Look at him looking at her. So there he is, restraining order against him, down on one knee, proposing to her on live TV. So she refused. She refused. 5 days later, Svetlana was found with her throat slit in Alicante, in Spain, in her flat. So this guy went to her flat, slit her throat because he could not cope with the rejection. This is him when he's at court. And you know what he got for that? 21 years. 21 years. It's upsetting me actually thinking about it, because I tell you what, you think sentences are low in the UK. In Spain, they're rubbish. They're so arbitrary, you know, and they're never long enough, the sentences in Spain. It's awful, really, especially crimes against the person. Now, I don't know if her family took the TV company to court, but to me, they should have done, because this guy, they should never have been allowed. If they would have done their due diligence, you know, looked into his background, surely people that go on these programs, they should look into their criminal background, shouldn't they? I mean, you know, surely. I just can't believe they let him go on there and didn't even know anything about his criminal background. I just can't believe it. So you can tell by the way she's looking at him. This was the host. And then he was arrested. So what this guy's saying here on this YouTube thing is that things have got better since then. So I don't know. Let me just show you this article from La Verdad, which is a newspaper called The Truth. Well, all my comments have disappeared. Oh, there you are. They're back. Let me just read you this article. In fact, this is a Spanish article. Sorry, an English article. This was on ABC News in Australia. Surprise marriage proposal on Spanish TV turns tragic. November the 28th, 2008, what was supposed to be an emotional surprise moment on a Spanish talk show turned tragic for one woman. Single mother Svetlana Orlova was brought on the show so her ex-boyfriend could ask her to marry him. She said no, and a week later she was dead. So she had no idea why she was appearing on the popular Spanish TV show Patricia's Diary. Producers had helped plan the surprise proposal from her ex-boyfriend Ricardo Navarro. The crowd oohed and ahed as Navarro got down on one knee and offered Orlova a ring, but he didn't get the answer he wanted. Visibly uncomfortable, Orlova said no in front of millions of viewers, and 5 days later, Navarro was suspected of stabbing her to death. And it turns out that the couple reportedly had a violent past. She even had a restraining order against him for physical abuse. And the show's producers say they were unaware of the problems. Well, the thing is, he's not going to tell them that, is he? He's not going to say to him, oh, yeah, I'd like to bring this girl on because I'd like to propose to her, but by the way, I've got a restraining order out against me. So daytime talk shows have often been accused of trying to get ratings at any cost. Live surprises staged on no-holds-barred TV talk shows have had deadly consequences. And it goes on to mention the 1995 incident of Scott, who was murdered by Jonathan Schmidt, that we've just talked about. Oh, I didn't know this one. Last year, Melinda Duckett committed suicide after Nancy Grace grilled her about her missing son on her talk show. Yeah, I need to look into that one day. That's an interesting case. And then, of course, you've got all these programs, Catch a Predator. You know, they're quite popular, aren't they, at the moment? And a prosecutor deleted himself after being caught allegedly planning a meeting with an underage girl over the internet. It's hard to feel sympathy for somebody who's actually been trying to entice children, but anyway, we live in a culture in which we believe somehow people are not responsible for their actions. They are responsible, says a former television executive. And I sort of agree a little bit with that, because when someone decides to go onto a TV program like Stephen on the Jeremy Kyle show, you've got to take responsibility yourself as well for that decision you've made to go on there, take the lie detector test. It can't all be the Jeremy Kyle's fault. I'm not saying it's all their fault, but I do think there could be, you know, more like in particularly in Navarro's case, who killed Svetlana. Just looking into their criminal history surely needs to be, may be important. If you're bringing a guest on, maybe you should do a criminal records check on them. Especially if it's if they're coming on to propose to their ex-girlfriend, just to make sure. So this was ages ago. Spanish police are investigating not only Orlova's death, but also how talk shows are run in general. So I do think things have changed. These sort of incidences, they have changed things, haven't they? They've had to, like, you know, Jeremy Kyle's show was dropped, but maybe they didn't need to drop it. Maybe they just needed to review it, make more checks. I don't know. You know, I think whenever you use real people, like in these, I'm surprised nobody's ever done anything sort of live, like on Big Brother or anything like that, because you know, you're dealing with normal people, and normal people have got their problems, and you know, that's why people like watching normal people, because they're unpredictable and they know it's not an act, you know, that it is genuinely them and really how they feel. So I don't know what the answer is, but okay. So there you go. I just thought I'd tell you about all that. I'll let you know what the inquest result is. I will be on again later. I'm going to talk about the school shootings in America later, around about 5-ish. And then I'm going to do the members live that we did last night. It was really interesting. It wasn't interesting about Mark Williams Thomas. I'm going to edit that a bit, and I'm going to release that as a premiere later tonight, and we can chat. So there you go. You'll be sick of the sight of me by the end of the day. So in the meantime, have a great day or a great afternoon or a great evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Take care of yourselves. Don't forget to hit the like button. And oh, Michelle, hi, thank you. That's nice. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. In fact, I'm going to put my banner up. I don't think I've put my banner up at all. Yeah. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. Bye.